Hello, everybody. I'm Wayne Nance, the CEO of Real Life Management. We are a company that talks about issues of why we're fat, broke, and miserable in America and around the world for that matter. And I am joined today by two of our best coaches, Thomas Kane and Derek Peters. Guys, how you doing?
Phenomenal. Thank you.
Phenomenal. All right. Well, I want you to know, as we do our first official podcast, I didn't want to do this. They talked me into it. I don't like podcasts. And no offense to all the podcasters, but I was very fortunate over the years to be a TV host as a guest host in Nashville on some networks. And I spent a few years on the Fox network in Dallas as a radio host. And I've noticed that everybody now wants to be a radio host. They call them podcasts. I'm not really going to call this a podcast. I'm just going to talk about this being a show about some fun topics and some interesting topics that we're going to be covering. We want to have a little bit of fun. I've told these guys it has to be fun, and we're not going to do it. And so even though I don't like podcasts, I don't want to do a podcast, we're going to do a show. Guys, I want to talk a little bit about what makes Real Life Management different than all the other companies. How many training companies are there in America?
Lots.
And by the way, if I hear the word leadership one more time, I'm going to throw up. Every company in America, every church in America, everybody says we're in leadership training. And then when I say, what is leadership training? They don't even know how to define it. I wrote a book back in the 90s. Thomas Nelson published a book for me. It was called Mind Over Money. This was in 1994. Now, I put in there why we failed financially in 94, and today they're still the same reasons. I also wrote the book because it was about when does enough money make us happy, and I want you to know that we're still chasing the dream. And we have a Bible quote that we misunderstand. We say that money is the root of all evil. It is not. The love of money is the root of all evil, and it hasn't changed since 94. Then later on, I went back to the Christian publishers and said, hey, I want to do a book about why we're fat and broke instead of just broke. And they said, well, we don't really want to do that because we don't think Christians have any problems with being fat and broke. So I was so glad to know that Christians were okay with that, okay?
Absolutely.
And then I wanted to talk about broken relationships, and they told me Christians aren't getting divorced. So I felt good about that. What do y'all think? Only people that are not Christians are fat, broke, and getting divorced. What do y'all think? Now, then I wrote a book called Thin, Rich, and Happy. Now, Simon Schuster had to do this for me, and it was put in several languages. It was put in Spanish-speaking countries and Russian-speaking countries because we felt like Spanish people and Russian people were thin, rich, and happy. I don't know. I wanted the title to be Fat, Broke, and Miserable, but they said it's so negative, Wayne. You have to make everybody happy. Did y'all know we have to make everybody happy? And they said, so we can't make it thin, fat, broken, miserable. So after the book was published by Simon Schuster years ago, I went on a speaking tour all over America, and I called my tour Fat, Broken, Miserable. And we sold Thin, Rich, and Happy books. So everybody felt good when they left the building. And I felt good because they paid $20 for the book. And then a few years later, a Christian publisher finally saw the light. And they said, you know what? We think Christians get divorced. Amazing. They said, we think there's some Christians that are fat. Amazing. They said, we think Christians could be in trouble emotionally and financially. And I said, no, I don't agree now. I think it's all the non-Christians. And they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to do a book, and we're going to call it The 3-Minute Difference, because everything that we've been talking about is attitude. Now, I want to just set the record straight. How many of you taken a personality test? I can't stand personality tests. I can't stand the word personality because personality just means you have an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah.
And there's a different personality test coming out every day. Well, we developed what we call the 3-minute attitude assessment, and it's a real basic core attitude that we live by daily. Now, just let me set the record straight. You know, everybody's doing AI now, right? Well, I want you to know I like AI because we've been artificially intelligent in this country for a long time. And we finally sell it.
Yeah.
Only in America can you sell being artificially intelligent, right? Okay. So in our books and in our material, the 3-minute survey is based off of the original artificial intelligence because it's based off a set of numbers. Well, a personality test that'll tell you what's wrong with all of us goes 4 layers deep. So if you've ever put a fence at your house, you dig down 4 feet and put a pole, you're done. Well, we found out because we had to deal with some pretty tough topics like suicide, rape, divorce. Only if you've been divorced 4 times is it irrelevant. But we decided that what we would do is we'd come up with something and we go 128 feet deep because we have numeric value we work off of, which was some of the original artificial intelligence. Now, if you've been watching me for a few minutes, you already know what artificial intelligence looks like. So anyway, let's talk a little bit to you two guys because I can't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thomas, tell us a little bit about your experience with real life management and its attitude program. And what do you think separates us from all these personality assessment companies? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I was 303 pounds under psychiatric care for bipolar manic depressive. I was an alcoholic whenever Wayne first found me. And the psychiatrists were asking me all kinds of questions for 1 hour a week, for, I would say, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Some people do it for 10 years. When Wayne introduced me to this system, he knew exactly what was going on with me in 3 minutes. He knew 200 pages of information. He was able to map out the exact questions, the exact discipline, the exact knowledge that I needed. And my attitude was in complete control. And it wasn't until meeting Wayne and this system that I could see it on paper. Then I could actually take the steps in order to make the adjustments, in order to alter my attitude.
Thomas, how many times did I fire you as my customer?
3.
3. I fired him 3 times. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
By the way, did you know this? I don't know if y'all know this, everybody out there watching, but 95% of people that say they want help don't.
Mm-mm.
They just talk a good game.
Yeah.
They talk the talk, okay? Because that 5% knows you got to do some work.
Tons of work.
And when you start talking about people's family and how they grew up and the dysfunction in their life and they got to take personal responsibility for their life, boy, they run for the hills. Now, I've only been doing this 50 years, so I'm still learning. But I would say to you, and I think you would say back to everybody else, that the reason we fired you 3 times is you didn't listen.
Mm-mm. I didn't have the discipline.
No. And discipline's kind of overrated because, we're going to be talking about obesity on these programs and money management and budgets and all that stuff that's boring. But my point being is that discipline is an abused word. Mm-hmm. And discipline is something nobody wants to hear. Mm-mm. I used to weigh 315 pounds. I mean, it's in my material. And I used to run miles. And people would say to me when I go speak at one of these weight loss, we call them fat farms. Mm-hmm. And they'd say, well, Wayne, how'd you lose your weight? Well, I ate good and I exercised. Well, what else can we do? Well, nothing. Can I get a fat shot? Yeah, right to the head. Boom. What about metabolism? Is yours slow? No, mine died. It's not slow. Mm-hmm. One day a guy said to me, I was in a store and the guy says to me, I was trying to buy, fat clothes because when you're fat, you only got 3 suits in your color. Mm-hmm. And they had a big old yellow one there. And I told him, I said, I ain't buying a yellow suit. I look like a school bus. And the guy looked at me and he said, son, if you weren't a fat slob, you wouldn't have a problem. I said, I'm not fat. I'm big boned. Slow metabolism. My thyroid's about that big. So at the end of the day, we all have excuses. We don't like being called out, do we? Mm-hmm. So would you say your life's a little better now?
It's a lot different, yeah. And one of the funniest things that I remember was I used the big bone thing with Wayne, and Wayne said, hey, Kane, do you know how much human bones actually weigh? I said, nope. And he made me look it up. Like 21 pounds is what the total amount of human bones are. And so I couldn't use big boned anymore. I actually had to do some of the work.
Well, 200 pounds of blubber around 21 pounds of mine is not a bad deal, really not. It's called a blubber cover. A blubber cover. Did y'all know that? A blubber cover. Now, Derek, you look a lot more serious. Derek's a lot more intellectual, I think, over here on the left side. Derek was a Baptist minister. Don't hold it against him. I mean, I know. Derek was a Baptist minister for years, and I knew he was a Baptist minister when I met him because he actually married my daughter. And the first time I met him, he passed the plate and wanted a handout, so I knew he was a Baptist preacher. But anyway, so Derek, talk a little bit about your experience with real life management and why you're here.
Well,
you married my daughter. But
I
anyway.
got to go back to education. I was a guy that wanted to have the education, so I got my undergrad business management and then went straight to seminary out of college. And after seminary, I was very educated and ready to go out and meet whatever obstacles there were in life, and thought I knew all the answers. But I met Wayne Nance pretty soon after that and found out that everything I learned didn't matter. Everything I learned wasn't a big deal, and actually I paid so much money for it. I wish I had met him a few years earlier and I would have saved thousands of dollars because I was doing the same thing over and over and over. It was just a different scenario, and we all know the definition of that as in that, right?
Well, I want to thank both of you, and the check I promised you for saying it is in the mail, okay? Check's in the mail, guys. Thank you so much. So what we want to talk about today is we want to talk about how we differ from a lot of organizations. This is called a sales presentation. Mm-hmm. Now, the sales presentation is that we don't believe there's a personality. So we believe you have a core attitude that's developed by 8 years old. Right. And you learn your attitude from the people who raise you. Now, some of us were abandoned as children, were adopted. Our grandma raised us. Mama went to prison. Daddy's a drug addict, whatever. We had somebody in the first 8 years. And some of us, had the perfect family, and there are no perfect families. I'm actually worried when somebody says they're normal. It scares me. If you're normal, it scares me. So basically, you can grow up in a church family. You can grow up with no family. You can be on the streets. You can be whatever. But somebody, the first 8 years of your life, influenced you. Can we all agree on that?
Agreed.
Can we all agree that most of us come from some screwed up stuff? I mean, it isn't like there was a perfect roadmap, okay? I mean, as a parent, I can tell you with 3 kids and grandchildren, I was practicing parenting. There's not a handbook that says, "Hey, here's the road to success." Can y'all speak to that one? Didn't you have a few marriages?
I did, yeah.
Really? Well, you tried.
I did try. I gave it an effort. I thought that I was in love, and I didn't have a single clue who
well,
I
no,
was.
You were in heat. You were in heat. It's totally different than love. But go ahead.
I was in heat. It is totally different than love.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 2 marriages. My last one just failed 2021, and that's when I became homeless and met Wayne.
You see, I love guys like Kane to work in real life because if you haven't been messed up, we don't want you. In other words, I want somebody that's had a jacked up life because that's who we want in here because you actually understand. It didn't come out of a psychology textbook. Mm-hmm. We got so many psychologists or whatever they call them today that are giving advice. They went and got their master's degree and they've never even lived in real life giving advice. So at Real Life Management, we don't want you to be one of our coaches or be part of our program unless you've been messed up. So if you're perfect out there, do not call us for any help at all. And then the other thing that I've noticed is that when we have this core attitude at 8 years old, what happens then? Okay, so now you're 50. Mm-hmm. How old are you now?
45.
45. How old are you now?
48.
48. I know I don't look it, but I'm 75. Well, here's the thing. Between 8 and 75 and 8 and 45 and 8 and 43, something else happens. Well, we go to a church and the minister influences us. Mm-hmm. We don't go to a church because we don't believe in ministers because our daddy didn't believe in them or whatever, and so we don't go to church. We don't believe in Christ. We do believe in Christ, depending on our background. Then we come in and we go, okay, I'm going to watch TV, and the media is going to educate me. So now you got the media educating you, you got the church either educating you or not, and then along comes school teachers. And the school teacher's going to educate you, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you get lucky, go to college nowadays, that's a mess. Whoa, boy, you want to get some education now, go to college. There's a lot of stuff going on at a college. Now, At the end of the day, between 8 and 43, 8 and 75, you got the media, the government. Now, you can trust the government. I'll tell you what, whatever they lay on you is some good stuff. And if you can't trust the government, turn on the media. That'll be a good group. And then you might go to the church, and we'll talk about what's wrong with the church later. We'll get into that. And so at the end of the day, you got all this stuff. And I call it a bucket of soup here. We've dumped the first 8 years into the soup. We'll call that the potatoes. And then we got the corn and the vegetables coming from everybody else. And now all of a sudden we're full grown, right? Mm-hmm. Now we've learned anger and fear and guilt, and we're scared, and we all these things going on in our life. What do we do now? Then we go get some psychology from one of them geniuses, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, do you see what happens to us? We got a bucket of soup going. By the time we throw the meat in the soup, it's a little late, okay? Now, one of the things that I want you to know, if you're watching this today, we're going to talk about suicide on some shows. We're going to talk about sexual assault. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the financial industry and how did they take advantage of us. How does the weight loss industry take advantage of fat people? We're going to talk about how psychology's messed up our young children today. Boy, do we have some good stuff to talk about.
Absolutely.
We do. Yep.
Now, those things that I just described to you are called beliefs. That 8 years old, first 8 years is attitudes, and then from 8 years old to 45, 85, 95 is your belief system that you develop from everybody. Mm-hmm. And then we get to choices. We have a model at Real Life called ABC equals D. Attitude, belief, plus choices equals destiny. Mm-hmm. So when we say to people, you just need to make good choices, don't you kind of find it interesting? We've had all this junk thrown in our pot of soup, and now they want the beef, the choices to be good, to bring that soup of life together, don't we? How's that working for everybody?
Yeah, it's not working.
Well,
at a very young age, there's no teachings on fear, anger, guilt. No. There's no education on being able to be aware of your emotions and which is driving each individual one.
That's right.
And I was trying to look good on the outside, which I thought wasn't a bad deal, but it really was a bad deal because I see it in my son now. The things that I wasn't doing in my life, it got brought into his life, and now I see issues in his life that I'm working on daily with my attitude, so that his attitude is not in a bad place.
Yeah, and let's be honest. We say we still do it. Mm-hmm. Come on. I mean, I'm the CEO of the company, and I write the books. You know, and I'm supposed to have all these answers, and I want you to know I'm still screwing up. I mean, I'm still making mistakes. I mean, if you don't, I'll get my wife in here on this show right now, and she'll tell you about it, okay? And if you want to know how you're doing, interview your kids. I mean, I ain't about to let any of them on here. Right. So my point is we still making mistakes, okay? Yeah. You know, there was only one perfect person, and they killed him. So at the end of the day, even though there's probably a few people looking for me right now, you know, but anyway. My point being is that I want y'all to know that we got to be real with the audience. You know, one of the things, when I used to speak on the speaking trail, they called me Dr. Jeff Foxworthy. Okay?
I can see that.
Dr. J. And they said I was a cross between Dr. Phil and Jeff Foxworthy. Mm-hmm. And most people said there was probably more Foxworthy than there was Dr. Phil, okay? Yeah. But the problem that I didn't like about what Dr. Phil and some people were doing is they made it sound like they were on like some pedestal, like, well, you know, let me sit up in my chair and talk down to you folks out there, you know, in Wonderland. And at the end of the day, I want people to know that I'm real. Mm-hmm. I want them to know y'all are real, and I want them to know that we're going to make some mistakes. Yeah. We're on a journey, okay? We ain't at the destination. We're on a journey. Mm-hmm. Y'all ever been on a freeway and seen a lane closed? Who's seen a lane closure with little cones? With people standing around leaning on shovels, doing nothing? Raise your hand. Okay, well, here's the deal. I'm on a journey where I've got a lane closed or two. And I keep hoping the lane will open up, but it just hadn't got there yet. So if you're watching what I'm talking about today, and you want to get real, that's why we call it real life management. You want to get real with yourself. You're on a journey and you got some lane closures. Now, the problem is we have what we call the big three when it comes to choices. Mm-hmm. The big three is, one, y'all ready for this? Mm-hmm. Obesity, health issues. over 60% of Americans are obese. Did y'all know that?
Absolutely.
I'm not talking just chunky.
No.
I'm talking obese. You with
Absolutely.
me?
I was one of those guys. You can go to Walmart and find a bunch of them.
And you know what? If it ain't bad enough, to show you how shallow we are, we're excited to watch a show that talks about the 600-pound woman.
Yeah.
That's entertainment when we're not eating. Okay? Thank goodness for stretch britches. All right. The next one, finances. 80% of Americans are broke. Did y'all know that?
Yeah.
80% of Americans are broke. Now, they don't think they're broke because they got their 5 credit cards charged up and they think if they can charge something else. Okay? So when you see the malls full and the restaurants are full, that's credit cards. Okay? Now, we're not going to do that guy that talks about credit cards. I won't mention his name because I don't agree with him. But anyway, my point being is credit cards is just a result of an attitude issue, okay? Now, what do you think number 3 is? We've covered being fat and broke. What would number 3 be?
Well, I would be the professional at relationships, right?
Well, no, when we want hey, when I want relationship advice, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. You can tell us everything not to do, right?
I can, 100%.
Yeah.
I know exactly what not to do.
Yeah. So, and I want you to know that I want to give you some stats on relationships. Over 60% of Americans are divorced after their first marriage. Now, I want y'all to think about it. How silly we are in America. And I can't speak for the rest of the world. Some of them sharper than us, okay? We go down and we spend $25,000 to $100,000 on a wedding. And we already know that 6 out of 10 of them going to fail. So would you cut back on what you're spending on the wedding if you knew that? Okay. So, and if you're a divorce attorney, I'm going to all the weddings I can go to. Because I'm going to pass out my cards and tell them in a few years, call me.
Yeah.
That's a good marketing place if you're a man. So over 60%, it's about 65, but I don't want to be so negative. Let's just say over 60. And, you know, we've got over 60% of the people are obese, right? Now, there's another 20% that are just fat. We don't talk about them. So you got the obese and the fat. So over 80% of them are fat and or obese, right? And then we've got over 85% are broke. Now, how we doing?
Pretty good.
I tell people, you know what I love? And boy, if you want education about health and money and relationships, America's got a book every week coming out or a show. I tell people we are the fattest health conscious nation in the world.
We sure are.
We are the fattest health conscious nation in the world. Y'all get that?
Yes.
We're the brokest financially educated group there is. Is that interesting? Now, do y'all want to talk about what the number 1 cause of divorce in America is?
It's money.
It's money / selfishness or greed.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Now, this is a real good one. If we want to talk about cancer or heart disease today, you know what the number 1 cause of cancer and heart disease is? It is stress. Do you know what the number 1 stressor in America is? Money. So when we talk about all the stats of heart disease and cancer and divorce and money, are you starting to see how the roads tie together?
Yes.
This is not that complicated, is it?
No.
So when we say to people, you just need to make better choices, we don't even know in our country what a good choice looks like. Because we spent the first 8 years learning what it didn't look like. And then we spend another 40 years not learning. And then they go, well, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what's wrong with you. What's wrong with us is that we didn't have a good, I'm not going to say we didn't have a good book to show us, because we did have a good book.
There are books everywhere.
We just don't read the good book much, do we?
No.
So do you think I've said anything that's controversial so far today?
Absolutely.
Because I don't like podcasts if I didn't mention that, and I thought we'd just go ahead and get this out early if there was something controversial. What have I said that's controversial today?
All kinds of things.
I have?
Yeah, I'm sure you're pushing buttons on a lot of people currently.
Well, you know, I'm very sensitive by nature, and I just want people happy. This is where you need to tune in every week if you're looking for happiness.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Be happy.
Do you have anything you want to add so far?
I think it's important just to kind of relate this to what God's taught me through real life management. Is the attitude word. It's foundational to what we bring out of God's word. That's where it comes from. It's so important to understand that, because most people go to church, most people go to all the different things in the church, but they don't really read God's word. It's an understanding. And that understanding is really understanding ourselves. It's an attitude thing. If we don't know ourselves first, how can we do anything in life?
Well, now you just lost a lot of people. You just brought in the God thing. I mean, here I am being positive, and you brought God into this. I mean, you know, and here's the other thing. What about our you know, we got our Hindu friends, we've got our Islamic friends. What are you going to say to all them?
God is real.
God is real.
And, there's only one God.
So what you're saying is, on this show, we're probably going to be having some God discussions.
Yes, we are.
Okay, if you don't like God, tune us out. Don't be coming back. I mean, so far we've lost the fat people.
Yeah.
We've lost the anti-God people. We've lost the broke people.
Yeah.
We've lost the people that have had 3 or 4 divorces.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to have to worry about a lot of people watching this, are we?
We'll have a couple.
You know, yeah.
I know both of them enjoy it.
I want both of you viewers out there to enjoy everything we talk about.
Absolutely.
You know, it's really funny. I got to talk about divorce a minute. I always tell people, okay, look, over 60% of people fail their first marriage. We just said that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me finish my thought, because I get sidetracked real easy at my age. Okay?
No.
Over 75% fail at their second marriage. Did y'all get that? Over 85% fail at their third marriage, okay? The fourth marriage, you just shoot yourself. Did y'all know that? So that's why we'll be covering suicide later.
Yeah.
So I just want y'all to think about how ridiculous. You know, I'm laughing and having fun with this, and the reason I'm having fun with it, does this stuff sound ridiculous when we start thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they say, now I want y'all to know, if you've ever been to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, we think that's a good place to go before you call us, so you'll appreciate us more. Because I for 10 years, I was so jacked up that I had to go to like 3 or 4 of them for 10 years. And I just quit because I couldn't help any of them. It was the darndest thing. I just realized these guys can't be helped. But 10 years I did this, right? And so finally the guy said to me, he said, is your medication helping? And I said, yes, it helps tremendously. And I'd been flushing it down the toilet for months, okay? And he said, how does it make you feel? And I said to him, look, let's be honest. If it felt good, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
How does it feel having you talk to me and me ignore you? He didn't know what to say with that one, okay? So the point being is that the psychology, and I've trained a lot of psychologists over the years once we developed the 3-minute survey. And what was funny is the more I started training psychologists and getting to hear their story, they were the most jacked up group that I'd ever talked to, right? So what I did appreciate about them was the same thing that I said about us, that we don't want you in real life if you've got a perfect background, because people that go to help other people are the best if they've had bad experiences.
Absolutely.
We don't have a problem with psychologists. I don't want to throw a rock at every psychologist and every, psychiatrist or whatever. But I have worked with people from Harvard Psychology and major colleges around the world. And the issue is that they've got to step away from the textbook, and they've got to step away from, they're still using, when they teach psychology today, they're using 1960 and 1970 theories. Mm-hmm. They're still using 1960 textbooks, 1970 textbooks.
Yeah.
And here's my real pet peeve, and we'll get to a show on this. This show will be about how is the psychology community screwing up our kids. Get rid of the medications.
Yeah.
Now, you know this because you came to me on medication.
Tons of medication. I was in the process of switching from one medication to the other simply because they couldn't find one that would work well with me. I would either sleep all day, or I would just be antsy, or some of the other things. And finally, when we landed on one that worked, it ended up being $1,000 a month. And so then he started to push it more and more and more. And so it just, I completely understand that medication stuff.
Well, I had everything that ended in D. I mean, you find a diagnosis that ended in D, and I had it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of my favorites is ADD.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit still.
Yeah.
Do I strike you as a guy that can't sit still?
Yes.
Do
Yes,
I
you
strike you as
Absolutely
a guy?
you
Do I
do.
strike you as a guy that's outspoken? Do I strike you as a guy in class that couldn't keep his mouth shut?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I had ADD. But anyway, we didn't know back then what it was. But do you know what they did for me? They didn't have any medication, and they didn't know what to do with me. So they said, if you don't sit down, we're going to spank your butt.
Yeah.
Boy, that worked good. That worked so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daddy said, son, if they spank your butt at school, I'm going to spank your butt when you come home. Woo! I got a double ADD dose.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say to you is, isn't it amazing how we've digressed? That everything has to have a medication. People say, oh, my 4-year-old's doing so much better. He is? Yeah, he's on that new medicine. A 4-year-old
Yeah.
on medicine? So the problem with psychology today is we got to stop preaching out of a 60 and 70 textbook, and we got to stop medicating everything and everybody that doesn't move.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have anything you want to add about what makes us different with the ABC theory opposed to some of the training companies? And don't y'all mention leadership to me. I cannot stand that topic. We don't know what a leader even look like, most of us, okay? I tell most people, I don't need you to learn to lead. I just need you to learn to get out of the way. So and we're going to be having some leadership shows, but we're going to talk about the attitude of leadership. And by the way, I did spend 7 years training military officers around the world on the subject of attitude and leadership. Did I mention that? And we will talk later about why the Army screwed up, and we'll get into a show about that. But anyway, did you want to add anything that we haven't talked about?
Absolutely. So that model, the attitude plus belief plus choices, people don't understand 50% of what happens to us comes from the core attitude hardwiring of who we are. 30% is the beliefs. That 80% before our choice is even made is in control of it. And we have no idea what that is. When all of my years with psychiatrists or all of my years of the marital counseling or some of those other things that I had to go through, this opened my eyes so much more than all of their questioning for 1 hour when they're watching their clock. Like, this gave me a complete roadmap, a complete map on paper that I could follow, and it opened my eyes to a whole different way of doing things. So,
What about you, Derek? What do you think?
For me, I go back to my education, I'll put that in quotes, that I had in ministry. What I began to see is that I was just doing something different to try to cover up my own imperfections in my own life. And it was my attitude. My attitude kept doing those same things over and over again. And I didn't see those because I did something else to try to fix them. I did Myers-Briggs, I did DISC in seminary. And when I got done going through those courses, and those things took 30 minutes, sometimes an hour and 30 minutes to fill out. Mr. Wayne gave me the 3-minute survey, and in 3 minutes, it told me everything that those did in 3 minutes, but even deeper because it helped me to understand to the core of why I kept messing up all the time. Mm-hmm. That 3 minutes basically helped me to understand why I kept getting angry very easily, and why that anger was passed on to my son and passed on even to my wife and caused issues and conflicts in the house. And I kept that hidden. But I had to deal with that issue. I had to deal with that attitude issue for me to be able to come out of that. And what God teaches in His Word, that is, if you deal with that inner core issue, the attitude, then you can be blessed by Him. And that's what we want to teach. That's what we want to teach in this podcast and many more. So,
Well, are you telling me, I've had an awakening. Are you telling me that there's problems that aren't truthful in the ministry?
yes.
Are you telling me there are ministers that don't come clean with us?
absolutely.
Correct.
Dadgummit, how did I miss all of that in my research? So I guess we're going to have to do a show one day about why is the church broken in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, I'm not going to go too deep on this today, but in the church today, we're kind of gotten snobbish. We want Christians coming to the church. We don't want the non-Christians coming to the church. And you know what's the darndest thing? When I read the Bible, I thought they wanted the sinners coming
They do.
so they could help make them better. So we're going to have to talk about that one day.
I read that in Luke this
Boy,
morning.
we're going to have a whole show about that.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the hottest topics today that we're going to talk about in the near future is either going to be next week or the week after. I hadn't decided yet. Depends on what my mood is. But I spent 7 years around the world researching suicide and rape with the military. Over 75,000 soldiers in our database. What do you think?
Wow.
And we found out what kind of leaders they are or are not. We found out what a rapist and suicide people look like. And then we carried that over to the public, and we found out what violent people look like. We're going to do a whole show on the U.S. Army cover-up. What do y'all think about that? Would y'all like to do a show on the U.S. Army cover-up?
For sure.
Where we can tell the whole truth?
The whole truth.
Yeah, the whole truth.
And nothing but the truth. And did I tell y'all that I would have the pleasure? I know it's going to sound like I'm a smart aleck that knows everything. You know, people hate know-it-alls. But I'm 75. If you ain't learned something by then, you're stupid, right? I was in the financial business for over 30 years. Did I tell y'all that? And I found out how they shaft the public. And so one of the shows we're going to be talking about is learn how you get shafted by the financial industry. What do y'all think about that?
It's going to be exciting.
It's gonna be good.
And then because I was a blubber-covered bone guy, fat,
Yeah.
I found out that I tried all kind of diet programs and what they do to your body. And later I become a marathon runner, and I tested a lot of the theories because I got me one of them PhD guys to work with me in exercise physiology.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out how the health industry was lying to us. Mm-hmm. And I got to travel the country for years with a sports nutritionist to find out the real inside track. Mm-hmm. So I got to find out how we're taken advantage of by the health industry and the diet industry. What do y'all think? We should do a show on that?
Absolutely.
We should do a show on that.
Yep.
And then how about the last one that I really love? Why don't we do a show on how the financial industry puts the shaft to the public and wants to keep them idiots? What do y'all think about that?
Yeah.
School systems as well.
Oh, we don't want to go there because
They don't even teach none of this.
school systems are perfect because state legislators who make that. Oh, did I mention I was on the school board in the Houston area? So at the end of the day, people are going to say, that Wayne Nance is such a sarcastic know-it-all. And it's because I don't know it all. It's just I've been there and done that because I'm old.
Yeah.
I mean, look at my face. You can't tell I'm old? Really? I mean, I'm proud of this. I mean, I earned these wrinkles. And so we're going to tell all of you smart ones out there watching some things that you might want to learn. Now, I don't want to just ramble. Is there anything else before we wrap this up today that you want to say to the two people watching us?
What
is
both of y'all? Both of y'all enjoy the show. Stick around. It's going to be some really good stuff. It is going to be very hard truth about life, about real life. That's why the company's called Real Life Management. It's going to be very hard truth about things that I've been through, Derek's been through, Wayne's been through, and it's going to sting. And if it doesn't sting, then we got other things to worry about, don't we?
Derek, you got anything you want to say?
I want to make sure you understand that quick fixes are not us. A lot of times you come up with all these quick fixes. I've been in the gym all through the new year, and man, right now you can't even get on a machine because you're fighting people that are trying to get on the machine. This isn't a quick fix. This is something that's going to take time. It's going to take your dedication, but you're going to start with your attitude. So I want to encourage you to chime in to what we're doing and what we're talking about. Maybe if you have questions, feel free to send us some questions. We'd love to answer some of those questions.
Well, I want to tell you that if you see this or you tell a friend about it and they see it, and you already know everything that we're going to talk about, please do not tune in anymore. We can't be of any help to you because you already got it figured out. If you disagree with everything we've said, don't tune in anymore. You won't like it. It's going to probably get worse from here.
Yeah, a lot worse.
And
It's going to get a lot worse. Y'all got to just put on your seatbelt.
Yeah,
That's all
really.
I'm saying. Put on
Yeah.
your seatbelt, get your tissue papers, because you're probably going to cry or probably going to hurt some feelings.
if you need to be happy, you probably don't want to tune in either. But I just want you to know that there's one thing. When I was on Fox, I always would say this as I close. And I'm going to close with this today. Just remember that today's choices are your tomorrow's reality. We'll see you next show.
My name is Derek. Thanks for joining us today on our podcast. I want to encourage you guys to check out our website at reallifemanagement.com and take our 3-minute survey. We want to learn more about your attitude so we can connect to you, and we want someone to reach out to you about health, wealth, and relationships. So if you would, follow us on social media and stay connected so we can learn more together. See you soon.